country. If we are speaking about the natural richness it has, youths, education, scientific research, and how we can link the youths to the Egyptian market, how we can open job opportunities, how we can really manage to cope or balance between the requirements of the market and the jobs requirements offered, plus the abilities of the youth. This is what we are going to discuss in our show tonight. Of course, the government has been paying great attention to the financing education, scientific research, and of course that is very much obvious through some of the programs that were launched lately, particularly of what we're speaking about, the presidential leadership program that was emphasizing how the youth can be linked to leadership positions, plus how we can really link them to the requirements of the market. This is what we are going to discuss later on in our show. Before we start with our discussion, yesterday was the first day of convening the parliament, the third agreed upon roadmap, or the third and last stage of the agreed upon roadmap. Hopefully that would lead us to the real path of democracy. Now, three institutions are holding up on the ground. We need to see more from these three institutions. That was very much illustrated by President Sisi. So in a statement released on Sunday night after the first session of the new parliament, or rather after the new parliament convened, President Fattah al-Sisi said that he totally respects the separation of power, and that he also said that the election of the parliament, the third step in the transitional roadmap, rather the agreed upon roadmap, will complete the institution building process of Egypt. Let's watch this report and we'll come back for discussion.
In a statement released Sunday night by the presidency, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi stressed that the House of Representatives will find all support and assistance from the executive branch of the state. He also reiterated that the importance of the parliament's role at the regional and the international levels. Sisi added that the parliament will fulfill the hopes and aspirations of the Egyptian people in the formation of a modern state that upholds the values of democracy and justice in order to complete the process of development which was begun by the Egyptian people. Late on Sunday, constitutional law professor Ali Abdel Ail was elected as Egypt's parliament speaker during a procedural session which saw the legislature convene for the first time in more than 3 years after MPs swore the constitutional oath. The 68-year-old Abdel Ail, who was clearly favored to win, is an Ain Shams University constitutional law emeritus professor who won a seat in an Upper Egypt governorate as part of the pro-Egyptian state coalition, which at the time was named for the Love of Egypt list. In the first speech after being named Speaker, Abdel Ail said that the MPs need to be wise concerning the legislations they issue, which must favor the people's interests. He added that they will employ self-criticism in the parliament so they can always have an evaluation of their performance. Also, in the late hours of Sunday, the new House of Representatives elected MP Mahmoud al-Sharif as one of its two deputies, with runoffs for the position of a second deputy set to take place on Monday. The election results led to runoffs for the second deputy speaker between candidate MP Suleiman Wahdan and MP Ala Abdel Menaim. The House of Representatives is the country's first parliament since the previous legislature was dissolved by the court ruling in June 2012. The body will take over legislative powers which have been held by President Sisi since his election in 2014. The MPs who make up Egypt's largest parliament to date are divided into 448 independents, 120 party-based deputies, and 28 presidential appointees.
Right, welcome back, and to highlight the convening of the Parliament yesterday, and of course the many challenges facing the Parliament, plus the significance and the importance of the Parliament at this particular stage, we have with us Dr. Mona Makram Habib, former parliamentarian. Good evening to you, Dr. Mona.
Good evening. How are you?
Thank you very much.
Happy New Year.
Thank you very much for you too. And a Merry Christmas also.
Thank you.
If we are speaking about the Parliament, we know that Egypt has been without Parliament for 3 years. Now, this is the first Parliament since that particular period, and we are speaking about the significance of the Parliament and its mandate at this critical stage passing by Egypt. How do you view that?
First of all, this is a totally new setup of Parliament. We have never had so many women. We have about 87 women. We have about 36 Copts. Many of them have made it individually. We have a great number of youth, about, I don't know, 40, I think, or something. And we have coalitions. And for the first time, we don't really have a party life, meaning that you don't have a dominating party, which is the first time for a very long time. So, this will probably cause problems in the future, because you have parties who have on their own got about 65 seats, like the Free Egyptians. The West also got about 36. The Future of Egypt got, I don't know, some kind of 40, I think, or something. So you have the three parties. One of them has joined the main coalition, but the main coalition today is preventing real party life, because it is monopolizing everything. It had tried to monopolize the main positions of the Speaker and the two deputies. But now they only have the Speaker, and their deputy has failed.
Yes. From your point of view, you said that for the very first time, the Parliament has no party which has a majority.
A majority, yeah.
Yes. Do you think that would be in favor of the political scene in Egypt, or rather not?
Look, this coalition is trying to play as the dominating force, which is wrong, because it's not a party. And I believe that in a few months, this whole coalition will be dismissed, will fall apart, because it is not a party. It is not based on an ideology. It's not based on anything. Nothing ties the members together. So this has done a lot of harm to party life and to the development of democracy. So we're going to see if the other parties will be able to assert themselves more during this parliamentary mandate for the next 5 years, or not, because party life has completely disappeared, and this is not a good omen for the future of democracy.
Definitely, but party life, or the parties in Egypt, have to do lots of jobs in order to be more revived and active in the society.
They have to do some legwork, they have to do some grassroots organization relations, they have to do a lot.
Yes.
But all this was prevented. No, in a way they are weak, of course, but also the fact that the coalition was said to be the presidential one and was supported by the president has put a lot of obstacles to a lot of development of democracy.
Of course, that is one of the challenges, if it is going to be a fragmented parliament, or it will put this challenge into consideration. But this is one of the challenges. What other challenges facing the parliament in this upcoming stage?
The next challenges is that I think, I don't know if it's the majority, but a great number of the parliamentarians are new. They are new to the job. They've never had a parliamentary background. They've never had a party background. So it will take some time, at least two or 3 months, if we are lucky, and if they are lucky, to learn the ins and outs of parliamentary life and what are the important. For the beginning, they will have to decide about the laws that were passed during the presidency of President Adli Mansour and the laws that were passed under President Sisi.
Exactly, and this is one of the main jobs that the parliament is assigned with.
Absolutely, and they have to do it within 15 days. So it's causing a bit of a controversy now. They might all agree to the laws now, and then discuss them later on in the committees.
Right, I guess we'll have to wait and see how this new parliament, but let's hope that it would really pass over all the challenges, because we really need the parliament to be present.
We are personally very happy that we have a parliament now. It means all the institutions are in place.
Right.
And we have surmounted, we have overcome the third phase with relatively quite transparency and honesty and lack of manipulation and rigging that we had in the previous years. So all these are positive points. Now let's see how the members of parliament will shoulder their responsibility.
Definitely. Dr. Mona Makram Abid, former parliamentarian, we thank you very much for being with us. And before we proceed with our discussion, let's first have this report, and of course aiming at the development of the institutional capabilities of Egypt's universities and technical colleges. The United States Agency for International Development, the USAID, has allocated $57 million for the Higher Education Partnership Program. Let's watch the report and we'll come back for discussion.
Egyptian and U.S. officials launched the $57 million higher education program at EPP, a key component of the flagship of $250 million higher education initiative HEI that the two countries announced in April 2015. The U.S. government-funded program will award up to 15 partnership grants, each for the 3 years, with at least half of the Egyptian Institution of Higher Learning. Shirley Carlin, Mission Director for the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, in Cairo, said that Egypt's growing economy requires a better educated, skilled workforce. She added that the Higher Education Partnership Program will expand the quality and scope of educational opportunities to ensure that the skills of graduates will match the demands of the 21st century economy and labor market. Representing the Egyptian Ministry of Higher Education and Scientific Research, Dr. Ashraf Hatem, chairman for the Supreme Council for Universities, noted that HEPP comes out of a study of successful experiences with other countries that are building partnerships with Egyptian universities and their foreign counterparts. Following the remarks, Dr. Hatem and Mrs. Carlin witnessed the signing of a memorandum of understanding by representatives of the Federation of Egyptian Industries and the USAID, Cairo's implementing partner for HEPP. The North Carolina-based Research Triangle Institute, RTI. The 5-year, $57 million HEPP partnership program will help develop the long-term institutional capacity of Egyptian universities and technical colleagues to generate well-qualified young graduates who can then move on to jobs that require high skills.
Nile TV International is your gateway to all the breaking news events across the world.
We're the most constant news service of the world. We make all the difference.
The entire world is shifting towards social media. That's why we're following you and we're capturing the latest.
We provide you with minute-by-minute updates of the latest events happening around the world.
Reading beyond the news.
Catching the news and following the latest and the most significant events.
You'll still be in the majors. It will be just a different sport.
News updates minute by minute. Where we have been, where we stand now, and where we want to be in the future.
Whatever is making the headlines will bring you the story.
To the point, a reflection by experts on current affairs. In-depth analysis, a balanced view of Egypt and the world around us. Expand your mind, change your world. Stay on point, on to the point.
Right, welcome back to our main topic of the day and the importance of education and scientific research if this country wants to see real prosperity or economic development. And of course, let me first welcome our distinguished guests, Dr. John Lassen, President of Ocean University, USA. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Mona. Delighted to be here with you.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Saeed Al-Khouli, First Undersecretary of the Faculty of Commerce, Ain Shams University. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
And we start from the growing economy or the hopeful Egypt's growing economy, and that needs the participation of youth. What is required for what we can really call a better education or a quality education, particularly of what you can really tell us of your experience?
Well, that is a very important question for any society, including the United States, where, of course, there has been a long tradition going back to the original 13 colonies of a huge investment in public education and the formation of some really outstanding private universities that have flourished now for over 200 years. So we have a great tradition there, but we still face the same kinds of issues, whether or not there is sufficient investment in higher education to really be a stimulus to economic growth and development. I would say that the differences between Egypt and the United States in that regard really go back to the rather short time frame by which Egypt has had an opportunity to generate that kind of investment and establish a sense of standards for performance that is essentially automatically accepted across the country by teachers, by students, by professors, and by the leadership of the forces that provide the resources to make it possible for these institutions to thrive and survive.
I'll get back to that because this is important. Dr. Khouli, if I may have from you as, of course, the First Undersecretary of the Faculty of Commerce, from your point of view, education, and particularly the higher education in Egypt, in a very old university as Ain Shams, do we really have graduates that really cope to the requirements of the market? How do you view the education, the higher education system in Egypt?
That's a great question, because this takes us back to when you define quality. When we talk about the quality of higher education, I call it as quality leadership management of higher education. There are three major components in the educational system. It is the professor, student, and curriculum, and the environment of teaching environment. Of course, with the problem goes back to what we call it as, when you finish high school, it is governmental law to get everybody in the university, which we call it as tansir. with everybody have a place in the university or in higher education. And that is one of the biggest mistake in our educational system. So we don't have the right to select our student, first of all. Second of all, we have to...
And even the student doesn't have the ability to choose what he really wants, but rather he is put in this place where his numbers got him to there.
Whether he like it or not.
Yes.
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 So that is a fundamental problem in Egyptian educational or higher educational system. So we'll go back to the main issue. Let's go to basic, where it is located on the leadership of higher education. Leadership is very important in higher education. It goes from the ministry level to the university level and so on. There is a lot of quality standard all over the world. We have a quality standard for higher education in the States, where you call it as accreditation. Accredited means you meet certain standard in order to provide the finance. I'm talking about governmental institution in the state, where you have to meet this standard in order to continue as a higher education institution. That's number one. Number two issue, which it goes for the faculty, you are tenured. Once you are administrator in the university, you are tenured. Nobody can fire you. So we don't have as a tenure concept, where when we talk about university, we talk about two basic things, teaching and research. Whether you do research or not, you are hired and you are there for life. Whether you take your master degree, doctoral degree, you promote it after that to assistant professor, associate professor, and full professor. There is no firing here. So as long as there is no system for tenure process, people can do whatever they want to do. So the structure of the system has to be changed in order to maintain the quality. The quality simply for American university, all Egyptian universities such as Cairo University and Shams University, in order to get in the world rank among the first 500 universities or 1,000 universities, one ingredient is very important, is the research.
But now, sir, you've raised three important ingredients.
I'm sorry.
We've been speaking about the students and the problem of not going to what they really want. We've been speaking about the teaching profession and how it is going on, and of course this third ingredient,
which is the research.
Which is the research.
But
no we'll speak about this point by point. Sure. If I may just get back to you, Dr. Lawson, and if we shed light on the, now you have taken some notes about how the higher education in Egypt is going on. How different is it, the system in the United States and of course in Egypt, and how do you use the human skills of your own students in their education system?
Well, I think you heard from Dr. Okuli a lot of the issues that are being faced here in Egypt that do pose differences. We do have a tenure system in the United States, but to secure tenure is very difficult. You have to pass a very rigorous test, and it is not permanent forever, because tenure can be removed if there isn't performance in the classroom and if the students are not learning. One of the things that the United States did a number of years ago with its accreditation evaluation system was to begin focusing upon proof that students have learned, which they're calling learning outcomes assessment. So every institution must prove to the accrediting body that the students in fact have learned what is in the curriculum and what is being taught. And if they don't, then the institution loses its accreditation and cannot operate any longer. So there is a very rigorous standard at which the institution itself will fail if the students are not being properly educated. That kind of requirement will, I think, cause a rather substantial change in what happens within the classroom, what happens at the point where you're trying to assess whether or not the students are benefiting. It's also very important, if I may say so, to the issue of whether or not the economy can grow. Because ultimately you're looking at producing the leaders of tomorrow and the people who will be filling the jobs here in Egypt. And you want to have people who have all of the skills requisite to succeed in business. They have to have cognitive skills, but they also have to have social skills, good work-study habits. They need to have a work ethic, and they need to be able to present themselves. They need to be able to write well. They need to be able to speak well. They need to be able to do the things that make for success in life, such as you are doing right here, Mona. And if you don't have those skills, it's very, very difficult to succeed.
Well,
so
I hope that is
the proof is in the pudding. You either have it or you do not. And I think, unfortunately, what Dr. Al-Kuli has identified here, and what we know just a very little about from our observations, is there are some sort of self-defeating concepts at work here, because, first of all, free education takes away a sense of personal responsibility. So that we think in the U.S. that some contribution from the student and the family that is being supported here is necessary for them to really appreciate the contribution that we receive from the government. And secondly, it's really important for the student to be vested in that outcome. They need to want to work and want to succeed.
Yes, and in that particular last part of what you were saying here, I know that some of the students even get loans to complete their own higher studies. How far is this true, and what does really this signify on the future? I mean here, two important things. Let me start from the beginning. Now, that means that the student has the chance to choose whatever he likes to study, because that he will be creative in doing that. You're right?
That is correct. Students in the U.S. can choose any institution that they want to attend. Now, the selective ones, they must meet the standard for admission or they will not be accepted. So, for example, the major research universities have a very high standard, and they reject perhaps 10 students for every one they accept. So there are a lot that don't get accepted. But there are still other opportunities, and students have a wide variety of choices. But the idea of simply slotting a student into a place, whether they're happy with it or not, really is a demotivator. And the student is not likely to be as happy about that as they would be if they got the choice that they wanted.
Right. But after all, they are choosing the thing that they will be creative. And another issue is this particular issue of how do they fund their own studies in universities, and how this affects
in the U.S. there is a system of federal financial aid that is very important for students who do not have the family wealth and means to pay the tuition and fees of the universities. But there is a wide variety of additional supports that help students who are not able to pay. And that includes aid from the institution itself, some aid from the states, and there are independent foundation scholarship funds that are available as well. But we expect the students to make a contribution and their families to make a contribution. And the entire structure of this federal financial aid system is based on family ability to contribute. It's a very complex formula, but it really guarantees that there is a leveling process between those who have the means and those who do not. But they all have to contribute something.
Right. Back to you, sir, and you've been speaking about three important problems. Let me here just have a report here that according to 2015 International Competitiveness Annual Report of the World Economic Forum, Egypt occupied the 139th place out of 140 in the Educational System Quality Index.
I call this as a wake-up call. Let's not joke around about the issue of education and higher education. That's a crucial issue in order to Egypt to be developed for the 21st century. You talked about the skills. In our university, there is 3 basic level of skills. There is the technical skills, and that's what we teach in the university. There is the conceptual skills. There is the communication skills. All of this is a package where it really contributes to the mindset of the student in order to get the job for the future. Without that, we cannot do it. And of course, this, the competitiveness index, which shows 139 out of 140, that it means we are one before the last.
Yes.
It's
Indeed.
really a disaster, and we have to wake up. And if we cannot do it by ourselves, we have to, I believe in marriage. There is a problem, we have a problem, and that is this index, it shows up. We are in a very, very late stage or range.
But why do you, what exactly, or why or to which reasons do we attribute that? I mean here, are we speaking about curriculum? Are we speaking that the government is not paying much attention to the needs of the real markets? Are we, what exactly are the real reasons behind that?
As I told you, in order to prepare our student for the future, you mentioned one very important thing. We have to study our market first. What is the job market needs? And based on that, you tailor your program in order to meet the market. That's one issue. The other issue, which is the curriculum. Now we are depending on the textbook only. Now they have what we call it as open sources learning environment. The iCloud, they have plenty of knowledge, and that is a knowledge bank, which President Sisi talked about yesterday. Yesterday he talked about, we have a student
rather the day before yesterday, and
Absolutely.
He was speaking about this year is the year of opportunities for youth.
Absolutely, absolutely. We graduate student, and after they graduated, they have only technical skills. They don't have a communication skills, presentation skills, and that's what the job market need. The job market need technical plus computer skills, technological skills, and the communication skills. In our curriculum, we teach only technical, and we leave other part. Let's learn from other institutions. Marriage is very important. If you cannot do it by yourself, and your rank shows that you are 139, don't forget that. So associate with yourself with university from Europe. Let's learn. We are not in a closed environment. We are in an open environment. Let's have the hybrid type of education. Why we don't have distance learning, e-learning, and combined? When I say
e-learning, which has already started in some of our schools.
Absolutely. Hybrid, you have in class and communicate with institutions all over the world.
Yes.
Why not? So when you open yourself to several cultures, we learn from them. And that's what I call it as a marriage or joint venture between Egyptian institution and international institution, whether it's European, whether it's American, whether it's Canadian, or whatever. It's very important to wake up. That's a wake-up call for us to really get serious about the higher educational system. We need to revise it. We have to be serious on it in order to be able to compete for the future.
Yes. Back to you, Dr. Larson, and let me have the American experience in linking youth to the requirements of the American market. How do you do this balance, or do you have this balance?
Well, we strive for that, and I think for the most part we do a fairly decent job of that. You can always improve, of course, but one of the factors that we haven't talked about that is critical to the success of every collegiate and university educational enterprise is the success of the elementary and secondary schools. The students that come to us must come to us with college-ready skills. The U.S. has gone through a wide variety of efforts at making sure that happens. It doesn't happen with the 100% assurance that we would like to have. So we end up remediating at the college level the reading, writing, and mathematical computation skills of the students who come to us. And until they do remediate those, the students that have not learned those skills before they arrive at the college, they must take courses that get them up to par or they can't continue. So there is a serious issue there for Egypt to consider, really focusing upon the quality of education at the elementary and secondary level. And it does go back to having standards and expectations, quality teacher training, continuing education opportunities, and of course a direct connection between the world of work, the employer community, and the colleges and universities, because when we graduate them, they have to be ready to go to work in the real world of work. And to do that, we need to stay up to date on what those requirements are. And as Dr. Al-Khouly indicated, they vary based upon the job, but every industry has its standards, has its requirements, and it's really important for the academic community to pay attention to what that reality is out there and try to address it.
What I really meant here is not the requirement. Of course, every company has its own requirements. But what I really mean is, what job opportunities do they have in life? And this is exactly what I mean. You prepare them for this. Mm-hmm. How do you make this balance? I mean, on which basis do you set the curriculums or the education itself? I mean, how do you do the balance?
Well, procedurally, what we do is to establish what we call advisory bodies, advisory boards. So every single employer category, whether it's real estate or law or medicine, we have advisory bodies that will advise all of the curricula content and sit with us and talk about what the current state of the skill set is that's required in those industries. Remember, our job is to help those students succeed in life, and that involves a wide variety of skills, and we don't want to ignore the cognitive development and the enrichment aspect about education that is equally important. But if we don't focus upon the practical final end of this, then we leave the student shortchanged. But in our case, there is a direct connection to the standards of the employment community. And of course, the U.S. has a thriving economy, so there are lots of jobs available. We have just been visiting with a company here in Egypt that has a thriving business and has a line of people sitting out there waiting to be interviewed to get jobs. So there are jobs here to be had, but they have a very high standard of who they select. And so the schools need to be responsive to what those standards are and attempt to address them within the curriculum. I fear that the same kinds of issues that we face in the U.S. with changing the educational system, which takes time and effort, is plaguing Egypt.
Yes.
And Egypt needs to, as Dr. Cooley said, get serious about it.
One of the most important serious problems is the teaching process in itself. And we need to understand the process of how our teachers, I'm not speaking only about the higher education, about professors, because that is another important degree of teaching, but I'm also speaking about teachers in the primary and elementary schools at large. So what exactly are the basics on which we choose the teachers and train them to be those teachers? What exams do they pass through and how they are being chosen?
That's the issue of license. Anyone can go to primary school, elementary school, and high school, as long as he graduated from college and he found a job and finished. There is no license. Nobody allowed to teach in any American school without a license. That's number one. If you have a license means what? You go and through several exams, and this license is not you get it once for forever. No, it revised every 2-3 years in order to...
Should be.
Yes, it should be. And that is a problem we have here. I graduated from college. I'm certified. I went from School of Education, School of Science, whatever. Now I'm graduated. I can go to any school and teach. That's not good. License. You are graduated from law school, you are a lawyer. There is no license. You are graduated from medical school and you go to be a doctor. No license. So licensing is very important issue. Nobody can get into a profession unless he passed certain exams in order to get into the job market. And this license, you don't do it once for forever. No, it has to be renewed to update your knowledge, to go with the market trend, to go with the new things happening in our curriculum and so on. So our curriculum, whether in primary school, or higher school, or in university, what you have in university 20 years ago, it is the same. You have it, your son or your kids have it today. And that is the problem. We don't have change in our curriculum. We don't take in our consideration whatever is changing in the global environment and integrate it. And that's what I meant by hybrid education. Open source learning environment. Let our student open to the new source.
I mean here, instead of memorizing, they have to go through their creativity.
Absolutely.
Yes, hopefully that would be the case.
And that created us with two sides, left side and right side. We use only the left side, and we leave the creativity part. No presentation, no project in high school, in university, and so on. And therefore, students know the knowledge by heart, and they get higher scores, by the way, maybe higher than American.
But then they forget
students.
everything.
And they forget it because by heart. They don't use this mental thinking, and that's a crucial issue for the student and for the teacher.
Now, you are aware, sir, with our main problems here. How do you view the challenges facing the Egyptian education, and how can we prepare our students in order to be able to really cope with the job market and job opportunities which are presented here? And for an instant, this important United States Agency for International Development has already allocated $57 million, that's something, for a higher education partnership program. And for that will be in 5 years. So how can we use this program in order to face the challenges that we are facing here?
Well, that is a wonderful opportunity for Egypt. And what we are doing with Dr. Okouli and Ain Shams University, with the Arab Academy for Science. Technology, and Maritime Studies, and with a couple of other institutions in the Middle East, is to form such partnerships that involve a joint effort in which students are selected to participate in this joint program, a jointly offered degree, partly offered by an American institution and partly offered by an Egyptian institution, with the occasion made available to students to transfer to the U.S. and study for 2 years in the U.S. to complete that degree. And some of the institutions who are participating with us are among the finest in the world and the finest in the United States. So we think that those examples on a pilot level provide a good opportunity for people to observe here how that can be done. I want to say that the process, though, is a lot more complicated than that. And the fact that the president of the country has announced a major investment program for education generally and is very supportive of these kinds of changes in higher education is critical. That attitude and that sense of impending important changes for Egypt's education system needs to filter down into the entire system of education, higher ed and elementary, secondary. And when that happens, there will be hundreds of these partnerships, and by the example that they pose and the performance results that you see from them, there will be achieve its own impetus for growth and development. Ultimately, it has to come from within the institutions within the country itself. If the institutions decide that they must improve and they must get better in order to be considered among the world's best, they have the means to do so. The country is full of talent, wonderful, able people, hardworking people. It can be done. It's more a question of the structures and the commitment and the leadership to carve the way to make sure that it's appropriate and necessary. And there has to be some discipline. You have to discipline the effort, and that means if people are not performing, they have to be moved out so that you can get people who will perform. It's difficult, and especially where you have a tenure system that protects people who may not be living up to what you need. So it is complicated, but I think one of the things that does work is to show examples of success, and that's what we're doing with Ain Shams University, and we hope that our partnership will be among those that stand out and that we'll be able to talk about for years to come.
How can this be applied, for an instance, in Ain Shams University according to the tenure that you were speaking about of the teachers, and that they are not?
You have to change the law. It is you are regulated by the law, and that's the government law, and that's the country law. Once you are hired, you are in the job forever. There is no tenure. You are tenure upon arrival, and that is against productivity, against performance, whether you perform or not.
Then let's speak it from another side now. What about if they are not able to go through with the jobs or the job description that is needed from them, and they are out? We have also to speak about their economic situation. So We have to balance here the situation between the living conditions and at the same time performing in the best interest. So this is why it is complicated, as Dr. Lawson here says. So how do you view this situation? How can we really overcome this? I guess it's a challenge.
I believe financial issue, if is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
For the university, at university level, it is not the only issue. It is the physical environment for the whole system. I believe we have a lot of market in terms of education, and that's why it's very successful, or private institution. After the salary increase for the university, it really upgraded the income. We need more, of course, but in order to do more with 139, that's not good news. So we have to give up. We are in a developing stage. We should stand with each other. We should really look for key performance indicator for each institution. If you don't achieve this KPI or key performance indicator, you are out as an institution. As an institution. So we have to look to the educational system, higher educational system, as a project. We have a huge structure which called is the Ministry of Higher Education. We have thousands of people working on that, and that's a huge structure. For the last 30 or 40 years, what is the end result? You said it, 139 in terms of education. That is a very bad news. So we have to really think out of the box. We have to consider every institution as a project, set key performance indicator, hire the right people to lead this institution. If you are not going to meet this KPI, I will withhold all your financial, and you are responsible for it. So every institution will work very hard to increase their resources. Don't ask me for asking more finance from the government. The government had enough. You have to create your opportunity. Self-finance yourself. We have a lot of opportunity, and that is why private institutions, they grow. We have to create a new program. We have to create new joint program with any other institution in order to go ahead. And that is one of the basic solutions we have. But remember that, very important, who you are selecting to lead this kind of institution. If you consider as a project, and you have a time to start and time to finish in order to achieve KPI. There is a concept which is called management by objective. In any American institution, they have that. When you start, you set an objective. At the end of the term, how many of this objective you achieved? If you achieve it, continue. If not, goodbye. And that's the key issue. We have to have an aggressive action in order to improve education. The end result, next year, it will be 140, if we forget about. No compromise anymore. No middle of the rope or middle of the way solution. No, it has to be an aggressive solution, out of the box solution, in order to be able to compete for the future.
Right. Getting back to this partnerships that you're initiating with Egypt, and we really want to know if this partnership would play a major role in stimulating the Egyptian economy, and from your point of view, would you put into consideration also the education that reflects the country's aspirations and needs?
Well, this program is a three-way program between our institution in New Jersey, Ocean County College, and Kane University, also in New Jersey, and Ain Shams University. It's a global business program in which the objectives of the degree are to prepare people to get jobs working for multinational corporations, primarily in Egypt, but they can work anywhere in the world. And the goal is to have them be considered among the best candidates for companies like Microsoft and Coca-Cola and
with no more names,
all of the
because we are going to get some.
Yeah, well, I think that's the name of the game for this program. It is designed to be a marquee example of what can be done when you combine the talent that's existing in the student population in Ain Shams University, and it's going to be very selective, and the ability of the programs that we are running to prove that they can be successful. So, you know, I think that the example that it will be set by it is one that could move the needle a bit. It's not going to solve the problem, but it could be an example of the kinds of things that work well. Just let me make one final comment with regard to the issue of tenure. In the U.S., the tenure laws or the tenure policies of the institutions don't allow tenure to be awarded until after the faculty member has proven themselves over a period of 6 to 7 years. And I would say that the vast majority of people who seek tenure do not get it. So there is a rather substantial turnover in that first 6 or 7 year period of time. Now, where do those people go? Well, they go to other institutions and try again. And if they do better, then they get hired there and given tenure. But the obligation about the value to the institution and to the economy and to the students. If the students are being shortchanged because we have teachers that are not performing, they shouldn't continue. And the goal of this whole program, this type of approach, is to make sure that the ultimate value redounds to the benefit of the students, and that in turn ultimately will help the economy grow, because you'll have talent that is employable, talent that has the ability to adapt and to be ready for the jobs of the future.
Yes. I guess my time is out, but I have to say here that we have really spoken out of some difficulties facing the Egyptian education. We have been speaking about some solutions or ideas of how to overcome them, and an important partnership here. If I may just thank you, Dr. John Larson, President of Ocean University USA, and Dr. Said Al-Khouli, First Undersecretary of the Faculty of Commerce, Ain Shams University, both gentlemen for being with us.
Thank you, Mona.
I would like to thank Dr. President Sisi for initiating and putting in his one of first priority education and the higher education.
What he can do other than that if he wants this country to survive, because our richness is in our youths.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. And dear viewers, many thanks for watching. Tomorrow will be another contentious debate with another colleague. And good night.